This marks the third part of this manhwa. If you haven't viewed the previous parts, you can access it by clicking the I button located above, or the link is provided in description. Let's aim for 200 likes on today's video. To show your support, consider subscribing to the channel. Let's begin our recap video for today's manhwa. At that moment, Hojeong moved his body in dodging the attack, but on the other, Yangxian body stopped in a pose with his fist outstretched. Hojeong grabbed his forearm and tightened his grip with such force that it caused him intense pain, making him cry out loud. Yangxian realized that the only way to escape this pain was to shake off the other person. He hit Hojeong on the shoulder with his good left hand, but surprisingly, Hojeong remained unharmed. The left hand of Yangxian, with which he had attacked, was fractured due to the strong rebound force, and his right shoulder blade was even dislodged because Hojeong was holding his arm all the way. A translucent hexagonal tortoiseshell appeared around Hojeong's body, manifesting the martial arts of the four gods unconsciously. It was the northern 12 walls of Xuanwugong, famous for its absolute defense. Secretions were flowing from Yangxian's eyes and nose. Hojeong's eyes lit up once again. As the enemy who had been exuding lethal force showed weakness, his hidden ferocity was stimulated. He looked down at Yangxian. His body, which had been shaking, became stiff as if it had been struck by lightning. Hojeong's cold reason overcame his beastly instincts. He thinks now's not the time to pay attention to that. Right now the thing he has to focus on is the villain's identity. He released the grip on Yangxian's hand and turned towards Murim, stating the third young master of the Yeon Clan. Hojeong moved his shoulders as a habit, and Murim flinched. Hojeong stated, would he mind playing with him for a little bit? The gathered crowd looked at both of them with different expressions, but mostly were surprised and nervous. Murim's eyes deepened and then he chuckled, stated he is the successor of the Green Mountain Yeon Clan, right? First of all, as the most mature of this gathering, he would like to express his gratitude for catching that crazy dog that was ruining the atmosphere. However, let's make this distinction. This place is not just for the two of them. He will play with him properly later. Let's have a drink. But his talk was interrupted by Hojeong saying he talks too much. Murim questioned what he was talking about. Hojeong stated if he didn't come to him, he would go to him, and used his technique static singularity. Seeing that, Murim became surprised and thought, what's this? He's coming at such a slow pace, but all his nerves are on edge? Before he could realize what was happening, Hojeong was standing in front of him. At that moment, his thoughts were interrupted as he noticed that Hojeong was just a hair away from him. In the shocking moment, Murim swung his left fist to attack, which caused Hojeong to move backward a little to dodge the attack. He then used the steel chain strike to attack. Some of the strikes were deflected, while others were blocked by Hojeong. Seeing that, the gathered crowd became surprised, and one remarked the chain attack of the steel chain strike is as impressive as the rumors. But what fist martial art is young Master Yeon using? Jipiang thinks that the Yeon Clan's 13 fists? That's a basic fist martial art. A little later, as Hojeong blocked all of Murim's steel chain strikes, and then Hojeong's hit Murim hand firmly, and then Hojeong used transverse strike, which was blocked by Murim with his arm but caused him to push backward to a distance. In surprise, Murim thought his bone would have been broken if he wasn't careful. This bastard is different. But his thoughts were interrupted as Hojeong stated, look, is he going to keep playing around like this? As expected, he has to attack as if he is going to kill. Then will he show him his true skills? Murim enveloped himself in golden ki, stated, you novice bastard. At that moment a lot of guards gathered around them, and Hyen shouted, stop! What the hell do they think they're doing? At a sacred gathering while grinding his teeth. After a moment of silence, Hyen stated, Mr. Murim, you are the oldest person in this gathering. He understands you wanting to teach a rude dude a lesson, but don't he think he is going too far? And then turning to Hojeong while saying he just picked a fight like a delinquent. Nobody was as boorish as him in the history of this gathering. Hojeong ignored his talking altogether. Seeing this, Hyen thought how arrogant he is, and he shouted, how much is he planning to underestimate the Namgung clan? At that moment a voice echoed from Hyen behind saying, please stop with his unfair actions. In anger, Hyen turned around saying, who is trying to interfere? Seeing her, he stated, it's little Hyen. She responded by saying, they are in an official meeting. Please pay attention to how he addresses her young master Namgung Hyen. This caused Hyen's mouth to open wide. She continued by saying, to begin with, young master Tang Yangxian is the one who ruined the gathering. Why is he trying to blame young master Yeon for everything? Hyen replied by saying her name, then immediately corrected it by saying he means Lady Jiggle. She must have seen it too. Instead of stopping young Master Tang, he attacked young Master Myung. She inquired, didn't young Master Yun make it clear? It was a mistake earlier. Young Master Myung should have forgiven him with his generosity. Is she wrong? Horim replied, not at all. She stated in her knowledge the Green Mountain Yeon Clan doesn't use any secret weapon throwing technique. He was just trying to stop young Master Tang by throwing the cup, but he missed him. However, she agrees that young Master Yun also shares the fault. That's why she would like him to tell them why he did such a thing. Hojeong's serious gaze towards her made her a little nervously thinks, please stop it now. Then someone grabbed his shirt from behind. Hojeong turned around only to find out his younger brother grabbed it with a serious expression, as if saying him to stop. Hojeong thought he was too hasty. He thought he might have found the shadow of the villain, so he couldn't control his murderous intent. Then he stated the Yeon clan's martial art is as powerful as rumored. He just wanted to learn a few lessons. Please excuse him. Horim replied he understands, so no worries. Hojeong turned towards the gathered crowd and stated the mood's ruined because of him. Although his father keeps on telling him to think before he acts, he must have forgotten about it again. He's going to make him starve for 3 days straight again, if he heard about what happened today. He wishes nobody among them is acquainted with his father. All the people gathered started laughing at his remark except for Hyan. Then he stated he thinks he might have to distribute a cup of liquor to everyone, one by one at tomorrow's banquet to ask for forgiveness for the trouble he have caused today. He would be glad if they can overlook his rudeness with a broad mind. Daeho shouted, what nonsense is he talking about now? Hojeong asked Mr. Ping, Daeho, what's wrong? Daeho shouted, look at his body. 1 cup won't be enough. Let's drink until they are wasted. If Mr. Yun manages to last until everyone else is wasted, he will consider forgiving him. Hojeong replied by saying he leaves him no choice. One person stated he didn't know young Master Yun had such a manly personality. The second person remarked he is looking forward to tomorrow's banquet. Wasn't Lady Jigal looked really cool? Flustered Hyan thinks he still have plenty of time. Manhwa greeted and questioned, by any chance, is he Han Homeong from the Poison Dragon's Steel Whip? He replied by saying he is. Then they both started laughing and Homeong stated he is honored that he recognized him. Manhwa responded by saying he got to see so many heroes today. The next day at the Gathering Place's restaurant, someone approached Hojeong and stated, excuse me, he is the guard captain in charge of guarding and his name is Chu Zong. Hojeong inquired, so what? Chu Zong exclaimed, let him be straight with it. Leave this place before the banquet starts. Jipyong in confusion dropped his spoon and questioned, what did he just say? Chu Zong stated, didn't he hear him? He told him to leave this manor before the banquet starts at noon today. Meanwhile, Hyan was enjoying this moment with his tea. Hojeong placed his chopstick on the table firmly, and inquired did he want him to leave. Chu Zong stated indeed. Hojeong questioned, but why is that? Chu Zong replied he is the one who ruined the gathering of the successors and has an extensive history. He decided that he don't meet the qualifications to participate in the gathering. Jipyong rose from his chair, his voice filled with anger as he exclaimed, what nonsense is he talking about? They already wrapped it up yesterday. He can't be punishing him for that. His brother said that he was going to apologize during the banquet today. Chu Zong replied, apologize? His attitude is already questionable. He casually came out and started eating. Does he look like he's reflecting what he did yesterday? As he was about to depart, he said, leave as soon as possible. In response, Jipyong shouted, most importantly, he is nothing but a guard from one of the clans. He has no right to judge the qualification of the successor from another clan. Chu Zong replied by saying he is really ignorant. Jipyong asked what is he talking about. Chu Zong explained the Namgung clan hosted this gathering, which means they have the right to get rid of the rabble that can be problematic for the gathering. Their second young master was generous enough to wrap it up yesterday, but he is different. He has no intention of leaving the source of the problem alone. He'd better leave before he humiliates himself. Meanwhile, Hojeong called his little brother over and used his chopsticks to feed him a piece of meat. He stated he should start eating already. It's getting cold. It would be a shame if he missed mealtime because of a dog barking. Why isn't he eating? Should he ask them to warm it up for him? Flustered Chu Zong questioned what did he say just now, as he stumped the ground firmly, causing a sound that grabbed the attention of the gathered people. Chu Zong stated he asked him what he just said. Hojeong replied he is so loud. This dog is barking his head off. He must be hungry. He needs his owner to come and fetch him. In anger, Chu Zong shouted he is just an infant to him, and attempted to draw his sword, which was halted by Hyan saying calm down squad leader Chu Zong. Hojeong stated he's here, the dog's owner. Meanwhile Duksang was stuffing his mouth with food like nobody business, and thinks this gathering is full of trouble. He likes it because nobody pays attention to him while he eats. So he is the young master from the Green Mountain Yeon Clan who defeated Mabang. Let's see how he solves this difficult situation. Hyeon stated he just humiliated the guard captain of the Namgung clan. Do he believe their clan will overlook this matter? Hojeong replied what he have done to him is called humiliation. Hyeon questioned what is he talking about now. Hojeong stated he ordered an old guard captain to do the task. Was he afraid of him that much? Hyeon retorted by saying he wasn't afraid of him. But Hojeong interrupted his talk by saying whatever if he is holding a grudge against him because of her younger sister, he should challenge him to a spar or something like a real warrior instead of plotting with his subordinate. Hyeon became surprised and the gathered crowd started chatting among themselves. He thinks what the hell, is he really mentioning Namgung Sangwon now? Then he shouted stop and cease his speculation. He is Namgung Hyeon. There's no way he would have ordered such a thing. That line of thought is an act of humiliation to their clan. Hojeong stated. Really? He didn't order him to say that? In that case he believed there wouldn't have any problem if he teach a lesson to the guard captain who humiliated another clan of his own accord. Hyeon thinks he got him. With a smile Hojeong remarked, shall he do the scolding? Or do he want to teach him himself since he is his second young master? Hyeon was taken aback at his remark. Chu Zong moved forward and stated he can take responsibility for his actions. Everything he have done was his own decision. Hojeong stated I see. Then how about he take responsibility with a simple spar? After he teach him a painful lesson he can proceed with the spar between the successors. It would set up a nice atmosphere to build friendship between them. Chu Zong replied by saying alright he accept. Hojeong stated don't take back what he just said, as he looked towards Horim who is enjoying his drink. A little later she knew about Hojeong fight against Chu Zong the Lightning Knight, and she warned. But Chu Zong is the powerful warrior rumored to have subjugated 30% of the bandits in Hunan and Anhui on his own. Jipyeong, you should have stopped him since he was there. She know Hojeong is strong. Jipyeong replied by saying but why did she think he didn't stop him? He's not the type of person to stop just because he try. And they can't back down when it comes down to this, let alone his brother's honor. Their house's honor would plummet if he did. She stood up from his seat and shouted they can't stay like this June. They need to hurry up. June remarked because they need to go to the training ground to watch them? She replied yes. June stated he have already prepared his outer garments. She thanks him and stated while running away she will see him over there. Jipyeong turned to June saying it must be hard for him. Meanwhile at the training ground both standing in face to face. Chu Zong asked is he ready? Hojeong rotated his spear in the air and stated let's get started. Chu Zong remarked wait he will let him strike 3 times. Hojeong asked 3 times? Chu Zong confirmed it by saying indeed. He is trying to hold the great Namgung clan's squad leader of the warring sword squad responsible right now. It's only natural that he concede 3 strikes to him. Hojeong's expression became serious as he heard his remark. As he dropped his fighting stance and moved towards him casually, making Chu Song confused. Then Chu Song inquired is he not going to fight? Hojeong stated he changed his mind and asked, can he take responsibility for what he said and change his fighting stance? Hojeong continued by saying if he draws his sword before 3 strikes his neck will go flying. People gathered to see the fight thinking, what kind of stance is that? Does that kind of spear technique exist? Hyeon warned by saying Leader Chan what is he doing? As Chuzong's expression became pale as he saw the spear in front of him looking like a big axe. Then Hojeong swung his spear at him while exclaiming it's the first strike. Chuzong tried to block the strike with both arms, but the force of the blow caused him to struggle and be pushed backward. Then Hojeong used a piercing strike that narrowly missed its mark, causing his clothes and armor to shatter. Chuzong's confident demeanor turned pale as he witnessed Hojeong's skills. As Hojeong used his 3rd strike, Chu Song immediately realized it would be the death of him if he did not draw his sword to defend, and he immediately drew his sword to block his attack. As their weapons clashed causing both of them to be pushed backward, Chu Song thought that was really dangerous just now. If he couldn't block this attack then probably he would not be alive right now. Hojeong stated he failed and told him didn't he said him before? That if he can't last 3 strikes he will kill him. He will make him pay the price for running his mouth. He rushed to attack again while Chu Song stood still with his sword. Gathered people saw them in silence. Seeing their fight, Manhwa turned towards Daeho saying brother this means. Daeho stated yes it looks like they have their victor. Meanwhile, Chusong held onto his sword as Hojeong jumped in the air to attempt to strike. Chusong tried to block it with his sword, but force behind the attack was too strong for him, and he failed to block it completely, and the spear hit his face, causing him to stumble backward. Taking the advantage of the moment, Hojeong attempted to strike again, which he barely dodged it but caused him to fall to the ground. As he saw Hojeong attempting to strike again, he used a lazy donkey roll to avoid the incoming attacks. As Chusong gasped for air, he quickly repositioned himself, and a realization dawned on him, and he thinks, did he feel relieved just now, even using the lazy donkey roll to try and survive. He is Chusong. While covering his body and sword in greenish ki, he positioned himself in a stance. Then he stated he apologized for showing an indecent side of myself. That was not befitting of a brigade leader of the Yeon Clan. From now on he will. But his talk was interrupted as he hit by Hojeong's attack on the shoulder. In anger, Chusong shouted, "You son of a bitch," as he rushed forward, but Hojeong launched multiple strikes but mostly blocked by him. In response, Chusong launched a life-chasing three swords attack, which Hojeong attempted to block with his spear, but he failed to locate one of his strike. Seeing that, Jipyeong worriedly shouted, "Brother, watch out." Noticing the incoming attack, he closed his eyes and focused on using footwork static singularity. Seeing the footwork technique of Hojeong, Chusong became surprised and thought, what is this? He attacked again, but this time it was blocked by Hojeong using Northern 12 Heavenly Walls. Chusong cursed Hojeong in pain as his wrist became injured, and he also suffered internal injuries from the enormous rebound force. Even Chusong, who was hit, could not see what kind of martial arts it was. He quickly got up from the floor and finally saw Hojeong while focusing his eyes. It was truly fantastic. He couldn't tell if it was an illusion, or if energy actually created such a form. It wasn't just Chusong. Everyone here was watching. Two translucent hexagonal patterns slowly glimmered over Hojeong's body. It was a tortoiseshell large enough to cover the upper body. Above both shoulders, something long unknown, whether it was a snake or a dragon, was wriggling. It had a mysterious appearance. Chusong's face distorted and he shouted, "Is that some kind of evil trick?" Chusong's eyes rolled back and a clear green light glowed on the outstretched sword. Chusong's wrist was broken, so he grabbed the sword in his left hand while threatened to kill him. At that moment, Hojeong tightened his grip on the spear, and a blue light glowed on the outstretched spear as both of them launched forward to attack. Hojeong used Savage Beast spear art to attack this time. The beast's fangs began to sprout from the blade of the long spear, which was more than 6 feet long and carried the heaviness of the deep sea. Chusong's eyes widened. Hojeong wielded a wild weapon and wielded an extremely ferocious beast spear. The blade of that spear contains many things, but at least it does not contain mercy. The terrifying iron bars began to cut through Chusong's body. The heavy polearm created an immeasurable afterimage. It was a fantastic herbivore, as if drawing huge flower petals, but petals were dyed deep red. The blood gushing from Chusong's entire body soaked the center of the training hall. Daeho stated that Mr. Hojeong won the match, but to their surprise, Hojeong didn't stop and rushed to kill Chusong. Chusong's eyes were bloodshot. He was going to die. In his blurry vision, he could see Hojeong. Finally, fear appeared on Chusong's face. That demon wearing human skin really wants to kill him. Save me from him. Hojeong didn't even respond. He held the middle of the spear as if pulling a bowstring and pulled, extending the spear with all his might. It was then the long spear stopped. Hojeong's eyes deepened. What stopped this attack was an iron gun in a hand. He tried to hit the spear, but the force was so strong that he grabbed it with his hand and twisted it. He saw the person blocking his spear, and he stated, "You are the leader of the Beggars' Union." As Duksang replied, but his voice was trembling. Master's reputation is so tiresome. He is still acting as a successor. He is so strong. It hurts so much that he is going to die. Can he stop this before they talk? Hojeong, who was looking at the full picture, relaxed his grip on the spear, and he questioned why. Would he do that? If he had made a mistake, his hand would have been severed. Duksang replied by saying he would have been an even more miserable beggar. By the way, do he know him? He don't think he ever went to beg in the direction of the Green Mountain Yeon Clan. Hojeong stated he just heard from the rumors. He is the future master of the Beggars' Union. As he moved away while scratching his head, were there any rumors about him? Hojeong thinks Duksang is the same as before. They used to drink together in the past, but he only met Duksang after he became the Black Emperor, which should have happened long after this current point in time. With a smile, Duksang stated, well, losing one hand is a small price to pay to save a person's life. Meanwhile, Hojeong continued with his thoughts. Duksang was not here in the past. Wait, maybe the present is being changed because of his actions? What if he hadn't visited the Thorny Melody Pavilion? Would the Jegal siblings have died by Mabung's hand? His thoughts were interrupted as Duksang said, hey, it looks like everyone's waiting for him. While pointing toward the gathered crowd, Hojeong turned around and looked toward them. He who was looking at the picture with colorless and transparent eyes looked towards him. A lot of people were watching him, and most of them were unmanned. That was unexpected, was the look in their eyes. One person whispered, wasn't that excessive? Second, a woman whispered, did he die? Third, a person questioned, that wasn't just a spar, as he looked at the injured body of Chu Song on the ground. Hojeong looked around and stated, they are confused because of him. But he was really planning to kill him. Hearing that, most of them became surprised. Daeho raised his hand in the air and asked Mr. Yun, don't he think he went too far this time? They thought it was just a simple spar, but Mr. Yun was fighting to the death with him. Was there a reason for that? Hojeong breathed out a sigh. He stated he guessed he don't need to hide it. It happened in the morning. He was having breakfast, and he came to see him. After a little while, as he explained what happened in the morning, Manhwa stated, this is what happened, and all the gathered people angrily looked toward Hyen. Horim stepped forward with a disappointed expression and stated, Hyen, it was his fault. Hearing that, Hyen quickly turned toward him. Horim continued by saying he should have praised his subordinate more often. Squad leader Chusong must have done it because he craved his praise so much. He should apologize since he wasn't good enough at managing his subordinate. After hearing that, Duksang thinks, I see, this was not his fault. It was just a mistake. Is that how he is trying to wrap this up? Hyen looked toward him and Horim nodded and suggesting him to apologize. But Hojeong intervened with a smile and stated it's nice to see how much he cares about him as the older one. He also would have acted up if his brother made a mistake. Of course he wouldn't make that mistake because he's different from a certain person. After hearing that, Hyen became nervous as a cold sweat appeared on his face. Horim questioned a certain person. He doesn't get what he is saying. But Hyen moved forward while bowing his head and apologized to him. He stated he is the one who ordered squad leader Chusong to humiliate young Master Yun. It wasn't a mistake made by his subordinate. He purposefully ordered him to do so. Confused, Horim thinks, but why did he do that? He prepared the entire situation for him. Meanwhile, Hyen continued by saying he tried to vent his lingering anger from yesterday, and he made a mistake as a host where he should have been transparent and fair to everyone. He would like to sincerely apologize to him for everything with everyone as a witness. That's why please blame his lack of virtue and nothing else. While thinking, don't mention anything about the matter with Namgung Sanghwa as he kneeled before him. Hojeong stated he didn't want to. A little later, as Hyen left the training ground and he punched the wall in anger, making a crack on impact, he shouted damn it all, he dared to humiliate him in front of her as well. In anger, he started punching the wall with great speed, causing it to break down into pieces. And then he called the guard that is behind him. The guard responded by saying, yes sir. Hyen stated, right now find out what clinic he's at and report back. The guard replied, yes sir, and left the place immediately. Hyen stated, Yeon Hojeong, he will definitely kill him. Meanwhile, at the training ground, Hojeong called out Ping Daeho's name. In confusion, Daeho replied yes, and Hojeong threw a wooden spear towards Jipyeong, who caught it and became confused as well, and he thinks about what his brother was going to do now. Hojeong stated, can he give his brother a lesson? Daeho questioned if he really wanted him to do this. Hojeong replied his brother's talent is the greatest in the Yeon Clan. However, he hasn't faced any strong opponents yet. Since the duel for pride is over, let's gain friendlier relations as per the original purpose of this gathering. With a smile on his face, he looked towards Jipyeong, who was still confused, looking towards him. Realizing what he was trying to do, Jipyeong thought his brother really is cunning. Turning to Daeho, he introduced himself by saying he is Yeon Jipyeong of the Green Mountain Yeon Clan. May he request some guidance from Brother Ping? Daeho laughed and stated he can match the people of the Yeon Clan, but it sounds good to have a friendly match. One of person from gathered crowd asked should they do the same? The second person replied his body was just itching for some action. The third person commented he has always wanted to have a match with the Jegal clan's young lady. Yanoa asked may she have a look at his martial arts for the first time in a while, brother? Manhwa laughed and stated let's do it then. Meanwhile, June approached Duksang and stated senior may he also request guidance? Duksang laughed and stated let's do it. Let's have some fun. June replied thank you. Horim, seeing them leave, heard a voice echo from behind calling his name. He turned around only to find Hojeong saying their duel was cut short last time, wasn't it? What do you think? Everything's been prepared. Let's do it and finish it in round 2. A little later, as the gathered people were busy in their sparring, all of them turned toward a clashing sound of a nearby fight. As they looked, it was the sparring between Hojeong and Horim. One person stated, "Is he really the person who fought against Chusung up till now?" Meanwhile, Hojeong launched an attack which was hardly blocked by Horim while bending downwards with the strike force. Then in response, Horim also launched another attack, which was dodged by Hojeong as he leaped into the air and prepared another attack in midair that was directed at Horim's face. Seeing this, Horim became a little shocked and thought, how he do that? He can't block it without using it, and he used his family technique to block one attack after another, and he also launched an assault on Hojeong which he blocked with his spear but caused him to push backward. Taking advantage of the moment, Horim positioned himself in a fighting stance, and a golden light appeared covering his body and sword. At that moment, Hojeong discovered something and became surprised. Horim rushed to attack as well as Hojeong, one covered in golden ki while the other in bluish ki. With a resounding clash of their weapons, Horim's weapon broke and he became flustered, and turned around to face Hojeong with the broken weapon. But Hojeong stated it would be wise to end the fight here, and making him a little confused on his behavior, Hojeong continued by saying he learned a lot. He would see him later and left the training ground. As he moved, the old and new memories rushed into his mind. He thinks that the same attack that killed his brother. Grinding his teeth in anger, he stated the Yeon Clan are the villains. This marks the conclusion of the 3rd part of this manhwa. The 4th part will be uploaded tomorrow, so don't forget to show your support by liking and subscribing to the channel for future updates. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.